When I visited a book arsenal for the first time, I was a student. Then I became a university teacher, and I encouraged my students to attend it at least once in their life. But since that time, they are attending it every year. So it's a huge event for all of us. In a few years, I joined the project as the organizer of small publishers' stand. It was a great experience, and it was a very nice opportunity for Ukrainian small publishers to show their books, because it was quite hard for them to present their books in other festivals, because it was expensive, because it was quite hard in organization and so on. So we started this project, and it was quite successful. So I'm really grateful for the great experience to Ukrainian Book Arsenal. And this year we were going to make the great presentation of Ukrainian book market for international audience on the international stage of Book Arsenal. But maybe now we can do that online, and with the help of the team of Ukrainian Book Institute, we prepared some data that will be probably helpful for understanding main trends of Ukrainian book market, and maybe it will be useful for literary agents, publishers, authors, translators, everyone who is interested in Ukrainian book market. Hello and welcome to Ukrainian Publishing Market Overview. In Ukrainian Book Institute, we are trying to pay attention to the Ukrainian market numbers and facts, and we try to make our market visible for international audience. Ukraine is one of the few post-Soviet countries which has free media and democratic system, as well as publishing market. After 2014, Ukraine started to move in pro-European and pro-Western policy. The population of Ukraine is 42 million, so as you can understand, it's quite a large market with a big potential. The official language in Ukraine is the only one, it's Ukrainian. But however, people can speak Russian or any other language freely. Despite of the annexation of Crimea and the war on the east of Ukraine, as well as Panda Mia of coronavirus, we realized the importance of culture. In 2016-17, a few institutions which support culture development has established. First of all, it's Ukrainian Book Institute, it's Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, and Ukrainian Institute. The share of creative industries in GDP of Ukraine now is 4% and 4%. In Ukrainian expert strategy, creative industries are one of the 7 areas which defined as the main areas, along with such areas as machine building, with communication technologies and others. So we can see that these steps were really influential for the development of Ukrainian market. This and the limitation of Russian import to Ukrainian market changed the situation here. First of all, Ukrainian publishers got the chance to develop their business. Previously, we can say that Ukrainian market was mostly the marketplace for Russian books. But now the situation had changed. As I have mentioned already, Ukrainian is the official language. But more and more people, especially people of young age, they prefer Ukrainian to Russian. Still, Russian language is more preferable for readers and people read Russian a few percent more than in Ukrainian. In the last 5 years, the number of people who read in Ukrainian doubled. Actually, it's a positive trend on Ukrainian book market, and the number of books published in Ukrainian language also increased. But I need to say that in 2019, the number of Russian publishers who were banned totally was 9. Other Russian publishers have access to Ukrainian book market and can sell their books freely just after the expertise of Ukrainian government. I should say that it's not a censorship, it's very important, because it's just following the law. But from the other hand, the number of books published in Ukrainian increased significantly. Of course, not the last fact why it happened was the support of the government. Of course, it was educational books, but also it was a trade market titles. And it's a good trend for Ukrainian market, and we can see the growth in fiction literature, we can see the growth in children's literature and in non-fiction. So the situation started to be better. Let's talk about the volume of Ukrainian book market, Ukrainian publishing market. By the expert opinions and also by the survey which was made by Ukrainian Book Institute, and data we can compare with official numbers, we can say that the volume of Ukrainian book market now is 100 million euros. We have 1,300 publishers, but only 300 are quite active and producing the books every year and forming the landscape of Ukrainian publishing market. So about some positive trends on Ukrainian market. The number of titles and the print runs in fiction literature for the last year increased in 16 and 17%. It's interesting that children literature also increasing in titles and print runs, and it's also the growth near 15–17%. Non-fiction literature is also demonstrating the positive trend, which is about increasing in numbers of titles in 10% and also in print runs. Of course, children's literature is a very big segment on Ukrainian market. Unfortunately, Ukrainian publishers, as all of the publishers of the world and all of the businesses and all of the people, faced the Panda Mia crisis. Ukraine faced it a few months ago, and now it's the second month of quarantine, and it makes Ukrainian business to be flexible and to think more about online commerce, which was not so good developed in many cases in many publishing houses. Of course, we are not talking about big players here. What Ukrainian publishers are doing? First of all, they have some hope for direct sales, of course, through their websites. Ukrainian bookstores started to make a huge discounts, which is, of course, not so good for the market, but it's a decision to survive here. But as Ukrainian publishers told, unfortunately, the direct sales are not growing so fast. To say that they lost 100% of income won't be totally true, because the situation is bookstores and book chains started to be creative. They started to invent new ways of delivery services. They started to invent new way of content delivery. And the war with Russia somehow strengthened the Ukrainian literature. It also strengthened the position of Ukrainian authors who marked by experience of war, the topic of war in the East, the personal experience of many people who came through this war and still coming through it. It had the great interest from the audience. Also, it was quite interesting for our partners abroad. Many books on this topic were translated to other languages. And actually these books started to be bestsellers, best-selling titles. Of course, such popular authors as Serhiy Zhadan, Andrei Kurkov, or Haska Shiyan, they touched the topic of war in their literature. And some of them won prizes, as Behind the Back by Haska Shiyan, which won the European Union Prize in Literature. Serhiy Zhadan with a German translation of Internat, which means boarding house. So the situation somehow enlightened Ukrainian literature and helped us to be more visible. But still the most popular author in Ukraine is Lina Kostenko, by readers' opinion. Serhiy Zhadan follows her, and Vasyl Shklyar, Oksana Zabushko, and Luka Dashvar. They also were named by readers without. It was an open question in our survey according to Ukrainian reading and publishing data, which took place in 2018. But what are the Ukrainian bestsellers? It's interesting that mostly Ukrainian bestsellers are by Ukrainian authors, not foreign writers. Of course, there are few foreign writers which became very popular in Ukraine and which are becoming from year to year more and more popular, but Ukrainian authors as Yuri Andrukhovych, Serhiy Zhadan, Sofia Andrukhovych, they are started to be also quite popular. Still, mainstream literature, such as love novels or detective stories, are also very popular. And here we can say that the biggest number of copies which were sold in Ukraine for the previous year, it was by Svetlana Talan, if we are talking about fiction literature. The best-selling item of 2019 was Big Money by Yevhen Chernyak, by Bookchief publishing house. So 20,000 of copies is the number of, these are the numbers of Ukrainian bestsellers. Family Leisure Club, from year to year, takes the first place with a number of titles. It was 955 titles, with a total print run of 4 million copies. But the first place in print runs has Ranak Publishing House, which specialized on children's literature. It's also the leader from year to year in print runs, but we need to say that Ranak Publishing House also has some educational literature among children's books. So the number of titles in 2019 of Ranak Publishing House was nearly 754 titles, with a general print run, with a total print run of 5.5 million copies. Of course, there are other big publishing houses which demonstrate quite good trends on Ukrainian market. So in 2019, Folio Publishing House and Crystal Book Publishing House, as well as Old Lion Publishing House, keep their print runs almost the same, and the number of titles also, except Folio Publishing House, which made progress in number of titles and added almost 200 titles to their catalog. The most number of titles which were sold abroad were, of course, children literature. And the countries which are the most interested in Ukrainian children's literature, especially in picture books, are China, Bulgaria, Georgia. And if we are talking about European countries, most of all, they are interested in Ukrainian novels, in Ukrainian fiction, by Serhiy Zhadan, by Yuri Andrukhovich, by Oksana Zabushko, also by Sofia Andrukhovich. So if we are talking about topics and genres of Ukrainian literature which are in trend for this year and for previous year, of course we can say that war still influences our literature, but also we have other topics which are covered by Ukrainian authors. We should say that Netflix TV series about Chernobyl also influenced the popularity of this topic in Ukrainian literature and in the literature of it. Influenced the interest for this topic from foreign publishers who started to invite Ukrainian authors to international festivals and book fairs to discover this topic, and who started to translate Ukrainian books. Ukrainian Book Institute announced the launch of the new program, the program Translate Ukraine, which aims to encourage our foreign partners to translate Ukrainian titles, to translate Ukrainian authors, and we hope that this program will lead to increase of number of Ukrainian authors who will be published abroad. It's interesting that historical background started to be even more popular after the revolution in 2014. Also, international audience started to be interested in Cossack times, in modern Ukrainian history, in war, which is still taking place on the east of Ukraine. Of course, these topics are still in fiction literature as well as in non-fiction literature. Chernobyl topic is still in the people's eye, and of course Ukrainian writers trying to make some plots near that topic. For instance, Markian Kamysh, a young Ukrainian author who is trying to enlighten the topic of Chernobyl in his novels, started to be quite popular, not only in Ukraine but also abroad. If we are talking about the topic of war, we can name Katerina Kalitko with The Land of Lost, and Andrei Kurkov with Grey Bees, of course Serhiy Zhadan with Internat, and many others. The first 22 years of Ukrainian independence, Ukrainian literature was not as much translated as it translated now. It was only 354 titles which were translated for these first 20 and something years. And only started from 2013, the number of translated titles from Ukrainian to other European languages and just world languages increased up to 547. This is a huge progress for Ukrainian market and Ukrainian publishers. Of course, it's because of Ukraine started to be more visible on the international map. Of course, it's because Ukrainian publishers started to be more open, and Ukraine started to be more open to the world. But surely, we want to make this partnership with foreign publishing houses, with foreign translators, with foreign cultural organizations more strong, and that's why we launched the program which calls Translate Ukraine. If we are talking about the most translated Ukrainian authors, the first place took Agravka Creative Studio. It's Andriy Lesev and Romana Romanishin. the authors of children non-fiction books and children fiction books also, who were translated nearly 64 times in different languages. It's just in a recent 5 years. The second place took Oksana Bula, also children's writer, and she is translated widely. Her picture books are available in many European languages. So these two authors are collaborating with Old Line Publishing House, which is the flagman for international collaboration, which is the publishing house which take the first place among all Ukrainian publishing houses in selling rights. So they're quite successful in international market as well as in Ukrainian market. So Oksana Bula has 43 translations just for the recent years. Serhiy Zhadan with 37 translations, also quite popular, as you can see. And by the words of international literary agents, they started to be 5 times more active than before 2013. But we had another problem now, and we have not only high competition between Ukrainian publishers who are trying to buy rights. We have the competition, of course, with Russian publishers who are trying to buy rights exclusively for Ukrainian territory also. Russian publishers can buy the rights for Ukrainian and Russian languages both, but publish only Russian version of the book, and Ukrainian language book will never appear on Ukrainian market. But of course this situation will be changed after the maybe more activities of Ukrainian publishers in international markets. So now they started not only to buy rights but also to sell it. So probably in the nearest future Ukraine will be also known as not only as a buyer but as a seller. The average price of books by Ukrainian publishing for the readers is nearly from €2 to €4.50. But of course it depends on the type of the book. If we are talking about children's books, we have here the huge range of pricing. So it could start from 50 € up to 4-10 euros or even more. And if we are talking about fiction literature, it could be near 3 or 4 euros. And the most expensive segment is non-fiction books, which could be priced as 4.5 euros or 5 euros. We have, by government statistics, we have 222 bookstores in Ukraine. Most of them belong to book chains. First of all, it's the book chain which belongs to Family Leisure Club, KSD, Клуб Сімейного дозвілля. They have 63 bookstores all over Ukraine. Largest publishing house, Ранок Publishing House, also owns the book chain which called Книголенд. They have 40 bookstores. Книгарня Є with 37 bookstores all over Ukraine also made a great influence on the book market. These book chains has more than the half of all bookstores in Ukraine. If we are talking about online bookstores, the biggest, the largest one is Yakabu. They have in their catalog more than 300,000 of titles. Of course, such wide variety of books could be because of the availability of Russian titles in their catalogs, and you can purchase any book in any language, Russian, Ukrainian, English, in their bookstore. Many publishers announced about decreasing of their print runs. Those who started from 3,000 copies now trying to print 1,000. Those who started from 5,000 of copies started from 3 or even 2. So the situation is not very friendly for Ukrainian publishers, but we hope that it's also a chance for creativity and for growth of audiobooks, of e-books publishing. And we can see that Ukrainian publishers started to be more and more interested in this topic. More information about Ukrainian publishing market you can find in our annual report, which is available on our website, Ukrainian Book Institute. And for more trends in Ukrainian literature and some samples of Ukrainian novels and texts of famous Ukrainian authors, you can check on New Books from Ukraine catalog, which is also available on our website. So thank you for being interested in the topic, and thank you for watching. Bye.